Alright, so today I'm going to try to show you some gymnosperms for your lab this week. So remember, gymnosperms are the naked seed plants. They have a seed, but it's produced in a cone rather than being protected inside of a fruit. I'm going to start with one of our most common in this area, which is the Douglas fir. You can see it's evergreen. And right up here you see the cone, the seed cone, where this seed is being produced. Since it's spring, this one is also producing pollen. You see pollen cones. So remember, most of the gymnosperms are monoecious. They have male and female on the same plant. There's another cone, seed cone. And its needles are fairly short, not very long, kind of a medium length. Here's another one of our common gymnosperms in this area. This is the western hemlock. And you can see it has much smaller cones. The needles are very similar to Douglas fir, a little bit shorter. And the cones obviously are much smaller. You can also see the new female cones being produced for this year. They're very tiny. The woody ones you see are last year's cones. This is one of our pines. This is the lodgepole pine. So you can see it has longer needles, and we'll look closer in a minute. You'll see the needles are a little bit twisted or contorted, which is a characteristic of this species. The cones are a heavier woody cone, thicker than the Douglas fir, although about the same size, and more pointy. They hurt when you squeeze them in your hands. You can also see this year's female cones are developing, and also the pollen cones, which have already released their pollen this year. Alright, so I've got several specimens back here that we're going to work on keying out. I have my key from the lab worksheet. Hopefully you can find a few either from your plant observation plot that you're working on, or any other place you can find a few specimens of gymnosperms, and you can use the key to key them out. Alright, so we're going to work on our dichotomous key from your lab handout. So here you can see it. A dichotomous key is kind of like a decision tree. It gives you two options at each step. So on here the number like 1A, 1B. And you have to read what it says and decide if that fits the plant you're looking at or not. If not, it tells you where to go. And then it's not going to cooperate. I don't have the Sitka spruce, which is in the key, but I do have a Colorado blue spruce here. It has stiffer needles, which is more like the Sitka spruce, and they're very pointy. You don't want to squeeze this, it will hurt your fingers. Whereas Douglas fir is very soft, you can squeeze that. Alright, here's the next one to look at. So you can see the structure of this one is very different. So when we look at the key, we'll go with number 1, leaves scale-like covering twig. So yes, this is the characteristic on this one, not needle-like. So we stay with 1A, we go to 2. Twig roundish foliage spreading out in all directions, sometimes scaly, spiky, bluish, fleshy, berry-like cone. Or 2B, twigs flat, spray-like, long and drooping when you see them on the tree. Scales flattened and overlapping in a 1/2-inch woody cone. Here's the cone. So yes, this is that one. Western red cedar, or Thuya plicata is the scientific name. Here's another one that's mentioned in the key. This is the juniper. You can see how its needles are a little bit different from the scales of the western red cedar. All right, we'll do one more. You can see from looking at it, it's another pine. So 1A leaves scale-like. No, these are needle-like. 3A, needles in clusters of 2 to 5. So when you look at these clusters, you clearly see there's 2. Again, checking several just to make sure. Clusters of 2. So that takes us down to 4C, and you can also see that these are twisted. These needles twist, and they're about 2 inches long or so. So this is the lodgepole pine. So you can see its cone here. A little bit smaller, definitely smaller than the white pine. A little bit smaller even than the Douglas fir. See that difference there? And then you can also see its new cones that are growing for this year. The new seed cones, as well as the pollen cone, is visible in here as well. Alright, so that's several that you can key out if you find them around somewhere. You can find some other things and practice keying those out and adding them to your chart up there. You don't have to necessarily find 10, but try to find a few and practice keying out with that dichotomous key.